All right, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to Mazak's Discover 2021 Technology and Education event. My name is Chuck Burkle, and I'm Vice President of Sales and Marketing here at Mazak. I'm here to moderate this Job Shop, Profit Shop panel. First, if I could ask, can everybody hear me? Good. Well, we just invested in a new audio-visual system here. So Dan, I think we're doing pretty good so far.
We're off to a good start.
Yeah. Are we? Is it still under warranty?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I'm honored to be here today as a moderator of this panel. First, I would like to thank our distributors, A.W. Miller, Bill Miller, who is here, Greg Knox, Knox Machinery, who is here, and also Machine Tech from North Carolina, for allowing us to recommend these panelists that are here today. Here at Mazak, we do business with many customers, both big and small. I've been here for over 35 years, and I can tell you that job shops are the foundation to this company. When we first got our start, actually, in this country in 1968, our growth here basically just paralleled the job shop growth here in North America. And a little historical fact, if you go into the control room there, you'll see a Mazak conversational control that we made in 1981, and it was built specifically for shop floor programming for job shops. Job shops today in North America have taken on a significant amount of work here in manufacturing capacity in North America. And today we're here to listen to three leaders of job shops here in the United States to hear about the challenges and the opportunities that brings. So I would like to introduce three of the job shop panelists today. We have with us Courtney Silver, President of Ketchie Incorporated, Al Schaeper, General Manager of Tomak Precision Machining, and closest to me, Pete Phillips, President of DP Tool. So maybe starting with Courtney, if I may ask, if you could just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and your company, please.
Okay, thanks, Chuck. My name is Courtney Silver. I'm president owner of Ketchie. We're a job shop in Concord, North Carolina, about 30 minutes north of Charlotte. We've certainly enjoyed our partnership through the years with Mazak, so we're really happy to be here. Mainly, we support railroad maintenance equipment, manufacturers, road construction, heavy industrial, some textile equipment, medium to large size parts. But typical job shop, very high mix, low volume, a lot of setups.
I'm AJ Schaeper, Tomak Precision General Manager. We're located about 50 miles north of Mazak. We've been a Mazak user since 1987, and we have about 30 Mazaks on our floor, with 2 more scheduled for delivery later this month. We're a contract manufacturer serving mainly the aerospace market, so we've had a lot of fun over the last year and a half.
Hi, thanks. I'm Pete Phillips with DP Tool. We're located in the Rochester, New York area, upstate, a whole different state than the city. Happy to be here as well. I've been a Mazak customer for a long time, since about 1979. We are a job shop as well, do contract machining in a wide variety of industries. Stay diversified. We're predominantly medium to larger parts. We don't get into real small stuff. Diverse set of different equipment that we have, turning, milling, 5-axis, integrexes, things like that. And again, a high mix, like you had mentioned, Courtney, a lot of setups. Most of our people are, again, setup, operator, and programmer at the same time. So there's a lot of opportunity there, and we stay diverse. Yeah, I think that's it.
Okay, thank you. Well, moving on as moderator, what I would like to do is address individual questions to each of you by name, And then when you have answered the question, the other two are, you're perfectly welcome to just go ahead and chime in and add whatever you would like to that specific question. So I'll start with you, Pete. You know, a lot of us here with gray hair have been through a lot of these up and down cycles. We've been through Y2K, 9/11, Lehman Brothers, and now the COVID pandemic. And one thing that we've learned is that we eventually get through it, but when we get out onto the other side of it, things have changed. The business climate has changed, and it just looks very different. So Pete, in your opinion, how would you see the landscape changing today as we hopefully pull out of this pandemic?
Wow, that's interesting. Yes, in previous downturns, we had a plan that worked well for us. We usually reinvested on the way down, planning for the growth that usually follows. And you know, that was in equipment purchases and improvements within your facility, lean, things like that. But what I see different this time than the last time is that it feels like our recession this time was self-induced. And the biggest challenge I have now is labor. Back then, having a job that you offered somebody was, it meant something. There were people desiring a job. There were people really looking for employment in 2009 and 2010. Right now, there aren't anybody looking. So you have to differentiate yourself. How do you attract people? How do you get new people into our trade that didn't even know what machining was? So I think that's the bigger challenge. The other thing is that knowing that the people are the bigger resource, as we grow and add equipment that maybe has more automation to it, things that can limit how many times you have to touch a part. We also have to buy that equipment with the future in mind, knowing that the labor resources are going to be less than they have in the past. So you have to spend a little bit more, and you have to amortize it over fewer hours. Because we're not going to just say we're going to run 2 shifts, because where are you going to put somebody in front of that on B shift? So I think you have to look at your financing a little different ways, and how long it may take to recover that investment, but you have to make a little bigger investment today than I think we used to have to.
Okay, thank you. AJ, Courtney, any comments? Want me to toss a coin?
So from my perspective, the business environment is going to be the continuing substituting capital for labor. I mean, as the employment rate is down, we've lost 5 million people. I don't expect those to come back. So as a business, I have to do more with less, which means more automation. And that's what I think the environment is going to continue to do.
Yep, I would definitely agree with that. One example at Ketchie that we've looked at, we actually just were talking about it this morning, is that all of this COVID, this pandemic, and what it's really caused us to do is take a hard, critical look at what we're quoting, who our customers are, what our current capabilities are in aligning that. And honestly, it's probably something that I should have done. It shouldn't have taken a pandemic for us to do this, but you know, you always learn in the hard times. But we have a very too big of a backlog. We don't have capacity, so we need to make sure that even though maybe we're attached some of these older customer relationships and where we want to quote everything possible, we need to be smart. We need to position ourselves to grow and to be very careful with how we're using our open capacity. So that's one thing we've made a change, our viewpoint on that.
Courtney, that's a great point, because you hit it there. When you have to make decisions on what work you can do and not overpromise and underdeliver, you want to underpromise and overdeliver, you have to say no to things. And when you've got current customers that have been good for a long time, you have to reevaluate whether they meet your current capabilities and whether they're part of your core competency. And you got to be careful saying no to too many opportunities that they send you, because then they may stop dating you and find somebody else to date. You know, so the good work you have from them, you got to be very careful that you're balancing doing the difficult or cumbersome work. It's a delicate balance of taking care of your current customers, but not throwing away the opportunity to see somebody new in a new industry either.
All right, thank you very much for those viewpoints. The next question is going to be directed to AJ. AJ, I've listened to your podcast, and I've heard you say over the years that your company focuses pretty strongly on aerospace. You've made some decisions in the past to switch to, say, other industries such as medical, and I think one of the comments was that it wasn't as easy as it looks, switching a core competency. So how do you find a balance between specializing in things such as aerospace that you do well, while at the same time mitigating the risk of being too dependent on any one singular industry?
So the balance is we are actively going after other customers that are also in the aerospace market. So our balance was, at one point in time, we had one customer that was 55% of our work. We told them in 2002 to go pound sand, and we diversified to have a half dozen customers that are no more than 20% of our business. And so we're continuing to actively pursue those type of customers in the aerospace market. The largest learning lesson for us is we didn't have the technical resources to really delve into the medical market like we thought we could.
Anybody else want to add to that? Diversification of core competency and risk rewards?
Well, probably just goes back to what I previously said about you have to be okay with a lag. You know, if you're going to really look at that open capacity and you're going to say, okay, we're going to pursue this type of work, it usually doesn't happen automatically. So you have to be okay with that sales cycle, that sales process, and just have a plan around it.
Yeah, if you get into a whole different industry, we've shied away from heavy aerospace. We'll be a subcontractor to somebody, but just the paperwork involved, there's a burden there. There's enough of a burden just for the quality department and engineering now, but to add that extra layer, we don't do defense work for that reason. You're either going to jump in with both feet and hire 3 or 4 people to chase down all these military specs, or you're not going to do it. And right now, the government doesn't have any leverage over me. I can tell them to pound sand.
All right, thank you. The next question is directed towards Courtney. Courtney, you know, it just seems like we can't walk across the street anymore without seeing a help wanted sign. And actually, when my wife and I came in here Sunday to help button some things up, there was a FedEx sign out in front of Mazak there looking for help, and they were paying so much. I think she's there now working. How do you've done a really good job over the years championing workforce development yourself, and for a very long time reaching out to women and reaching out to millennials. So I guess my question is, how has COVID changed your long-term vision of workforce development under these conditions?
Great question.
Sorry.
I do not have the solution. I'm sure that we're doing much of what everyone here is doing to recruit, making sure, really taking a hard look at our benefits and really doing a lot of analysis there, not just taking a renewal, looking at our 401k plan, making sure that it's as attractive as possible. I will say I've noticed even any sort of position, whether it's entry level all the way up to skilled, I've noticed people are asking about the 401k plan. So for a small company, you have to make sure your benefit package is competitive with everyone down the street. So we've done that. We've offered referral bonuses. I've certainly enjoyed my relationships with our local trade schools, local community colleges, working together on curriculum design, plant tours, and just recruiting efforts overall, making sure that if there's any sort of pipeline that can come directly from the school, that we're involved with that. We do have, for instance, right now 2 interns with our local technical school that are actually going to graduate on Friday. So they have come into Ketchie and they work in the morning before school and then they leave. So that, what I've heard is students do enjoy that flexibility. I think what differentiates Ketchie maybe from some other job shops in our area is our diversity of work and like Peter said, setup, programmer, operator. The younger generation, they want to learn, and I found many of them to be very curious, and they ask really good questions, and they want to learn, and they don't have a ton of patience. They do not want to go on my broach for 2 years or the saw. They want to learn. So making sure that I'm aligned well on the floor, and we have rotation of job responsibilities, and we do provide those opportunities to learn on the floor or even through Mazak training or other industry training has helped. But also I want to give a plug for Manufacturing Day. I know Mazak has participated in that. I think that is a wonderful event. It's a national day in October. I think it's the first Friday of every of the month of October. And we've had 150 fifth graders come through from the elementary school next door. So we've done exercises with them. We had a slush truck come by, and I really do think that we need to expose our kids to manufacturing at a young age. I think it's very important. From a women's perspective, I'm a little biased, but I think that attracting and retaining female talent in our industry is pretty key. I believe I'm one of 8 women-owned machine shops in North Carolina. I think that a lot of women just haven't been exposed to it. I think that we just need to do a good job with exposing women to it, whether that's through just talking to schools, or there's even through the National Association of Manufacturers, there's a Step Ahead Award where you can nominate your fellow female trailblazers in this industry. And they really empower and inspire women through that program, just through research, through recognition, leadership, and mentoring. So it's been very beneficial to partner on that. But that's,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you. HA, Pete, any comments?
So the way we attract the workforce of tomorrow is I am actively involved in the boards. So on advisory boards from in Lebanon, we have Warren County Career Center, you have the Oaks system in Cincinnati, Ohio. So I think because of my involvement, I get the cream of the crop of the kids coming out of the schools. We do Manufacturing Day, as she mentioned. That's been very helpful. And the other thing that I do, which I think adds relevance to our hiring, is I am the first person to do the hiring. I look at the resumes, and the first person they talk to at Tomak is me. So they recognize that I think they're important, and they're going to be a valuable asset to Tomak Precision.
That's interesting, because I used to do all the hiring, and then we just kind of grew to a point to where I can't be that person all the time, and I hired somebody to do it. And I think I lost touch a little bit with that. So recently, I've just done a few interviews trying to hire key people. And what I found was that we had nobody coming in with experience already. We're always recruiting that new person. We're trying to get people exposed to our industry at an early age, freshmen in high school. And I find that it's not so much selling it to the kids. I think that we have to sell it to their parents somehow. You got to get it to where there's like a tour, an on-site tour, that the kids say, hey, Dad, Mom, I want to go tour this facility, because I think their parents have a different vision of what manufacturing is. It's still not that long ago that you went in and it was kind of dirty, dark, manual labor, and it's so sexy today with all the technology that we can attract the new millennial, the people that are smartphone people and computer savvy, and everything's internet, instant gratification, video games. There's a little bit of that here, and if we can exploit some of the new trendy, sexy technology, that maybe we get some of them. But they're going to be reluctant to get into our trade if their parents and their guidance counselor and the people they look up to and their teachers don't let them know that this is a viable option and it's a good career. I think that's where we have to find them. And we have to adapt to the new workforce to where we have to be able to somehow offer a hybrid of working on site and working remotely. I mean, I don't know how you run a machine remotely, so that's a real dilemma. And to have the people running the machines there every day and some other staff maybe not there every day and working remotely, we have to find this balance of equality to where they're not jealous or envious of those that aren't, unless that's a position they can aspire to. You know, like we are operator setup programmer in a lot of cases. You know, we do have a dedicated programmer that sits up there, you know, where you can see them in the window. But it's not like they're excluded from having that position. There is opportunity. And as long as people believe that there's opportunity to get that next job that maybe pays better or has a little better benefit, I think we need to keep dangling that carrot. It needs to be attainable. And then I think we can get people to stay interested. And those that promote to an area that is maybe the top of their capability scale. There are those that want it but can't do it, and those that can do it but don't really want it. And we're trying to find that quadrant of people that have both. But at our size, we need regular operators too, that are comfortable coming in and doing a job every day in a clean, controlled, safe environment where they can, you know, bullshit with their peers and develop a few friends and not have a lot of stress. And then there are those stressful spots where you're working on a very expensive piece of equipment on a very difficult part that's, you know, the material's $10,000. That's a different type of person. But at least there is that opportunity if you have that diversity.
Well, this might be a good segue, thank you, into the next question, and we'll talk a little bit about the shortage of intellectual capital and workforce, and I think the same question can go towards the supply chain, materials and tooling and fixtures and skids and trucks, and being a manufacturer here ourselves, you know, running our business every day is just like catching falling knives. I mean, it's just chaos. You know, so maybe Pete, is there any advice or guidance you can give the audience on coping strategies relative to materials and tooling and the shortage thereof?
Yeah, try to plan ahead and have some inventory. Contrary to everything we've been taught, correct?
Right.
Used to want to have things just in time, and we had suppliers that would supply just what we need when we needed it. And now I need more space because they can't give you what you need. And you know, there's no good excuse, but when a foundry says, yeah, I'm sorry, but we need to hire 70 people to run our plant, so we're only going to give you what we're going to give you. And instead of a weekly delivery, they skip 3 weeks at a time because they have nothing to give you. So managing inventory is a big thing. If you've got long lead time items, occasionally I may push that to a customer and say, look, you're going to have to commit to this. You're going to have to buy it up front. Now, I do that carefully because I don't want to be the one that needs the money, because that might differentiate me from another potential supplier. However, when you've got a lead time that could turn out to be 8 months for a mill run of material, and the price in effect at time of shipment, it could be double. If your customer is not prepared to buy it, we have been stuck to where we forced them to get it somewhere else. It was China. And then once they get plugged in, they're not going to buy it for twice the price from me. Now I'm stuck with the material. So there are times when you have to put your foot down and say, you're going to have to buy this up front, because there's no guarantee you're going to want it when it comes in. And I'm not going to hold it for you. And they do understand that if you've got good evidence that you're buying it for them and them alone, and you can't take that risk. So you have to ask for that up front, otherwise you won't get it. Just use it with caution. I don't do it all the time, and it's really on big, long lead time items.
Wow, great point. Yes?
Yeah, and just to add to that, well said, Peter, this supply chain disruption has caused us to really assess those key relationships with customers. And it seems like I have to have a good, strong, trusting relationship with my customers. If we're not communicating well with our customers, and you don't feel confident with what they're gonna order, when they're gonna order it, if they are gonna do what they say they're gonna do, it's just all gonna fall apart. So hopefully, all the way through the supply chain domestically, I think, hopefully that's turning, because I don't think it's been that way in years past. Maybe it was kind of that transactional relationship, maybe with a job shop, like, hey, I don't want to hear about any of this, I just want my parts. But now, I feel like I've had some key conversations where this is more of a relationship, this is a partnership, this is an investment. You know, I'm gonna support you through all of these struggles.
Thank you. AJ, would you like to add anything to that, or everything covered?
From my perspective, just to follow up with what you said, the customers seem more interested in the job shop and making sure they're profitable, which is very surprising to me, compared to a number of years ago. I'm very happy for that. We'll see how long it lasts.
You're right, to add to that, you're right. Our customers care about us now, we're not just a commodity, because they know that they can't lose us. Because they used to be able to say, you know what, you're gonna do it for this price, and you're gonna do everything we say, and we need your lead times to be 2 weeks, and all those things, and they demanded all of that, and they got away with it in 2010 and 9. We take anything, and they got very used to 1 week turnarounds, or 1 day if they demanded. And now, when you tell them, you know what, we're out 12 weeks, they know that they can't just pull that and find somebody else to do it, because everybody is busy and everybody is short-staffed. So the relationship comes back into play.
Yes.
All right, well, Dan, it's a little bit good news that we're not the only ones, I guess.
Well, I'll tell you, this is a great discussion.
Yeah.
It really is.
The next question is directed to AJ. You know, materials and processes and workflow are changing rapidly. I mean, even at this event, right on the other side of this door, there's displays of cybersecurity, friction stir welding, powder, hot wire laser deposition. At Tomak, how do you decide when it's time to take the plunge to get into some of these newer, more alternative processes? And what could you say to other companies out here that might be reluctant to move in that direction?
So we have what I would call a business strategy to invest every 4 or 5 years in something that's new to us. In 2014, we got into 3D plastic, printing, there you go, that's correct. Because we wanted to get into it to see what it was like. Before that, we bought a Mazak Integrex. So we just have a strategy to invest to make sure we're staying technologically current in the marketplace, so our prices stay competitive for our customers. That's just our business strategy. There's lots of business strategies to be out there.
Courtney?
Agree with the AJ. Same here. It's a big responsibility to be a job shop and support that supply chain domestically. So you need to keep investing in new technology. And good news is a lot of shops like mine, they have an interest in learning. I think people typically get bored if we're gonna be on the same types of technology and equipment. It's not gonna be very fun and exciting. So, and I think that goes back to attracting and retaining a good quality workforce. You know, new machines, new technology, just keep innovating.
You're right, by having new machines come in the building, I think it gives your employees a sense that your company's not stagnant. It's growing. You know, obviously, if the owners are involved, that really helps too. But if you're always getting new technology in, there are opportunities for people to grow and not get bored. So your best people desire that, and there are some that are afraid of it. But the larger you get, the more diversity you have in your workforce, not just your customer base. So getting new technology is great. There's always somebody that wants to be the champion of that. And it keeps things interesting.
Well, we have a technology center here, and we have 7 others in North America. And one of the missions of the technology centers is to prove out these new alternative creative processes. And I apologize if this sounds like a commercial, but the purpose of these technology centers is we have a core belief in our culture that we never ask customers to do what we're not willing to do ourselves first here. So one of the reasons we have events like this, and you see friction stir welding and powder and hot wire out here, is just hopefully to increase the comfort factor and mitigate the risk just a little bit. Speaking of Mazak, I think all 4 of us have one thing in common, and that is we're all private, family-owned businesses. And culture is very important, I believe, to all of us. I'd like to direct this question to Courtney. As a family-owned business who underscores the importance of company culture, can you discuss a few ways that company culture affects recruitment and retainment?
Sure. So I've said quite a bit that our purpose goes beyond the bottom line. And what I mean by that is our goal in business is what? To make money, right? We make money so that we can take care of our families, so we can take care of our partners in the community. I've loved my relationship with the Boys and Girls Club locally. We were part of their capital campaign. We shut down certain days of the year and do employee volunteer events with them, as well as another organization, Cooperative Christian Ministry in Concord. So I've had employees come up to me through the years and say that is their favorite day of the year, and that's what they love working about in Ketchie. I've had people come up to me, and there was a sign up for like a mobile food truck, and some of my employees worked for a few hours in the morning, and one of my employees was going through a really hard time, and she just came up to me and had tears in her eyes and said, that is the most perfectly timed volunteer event. Like, that is exactly what I needed. So, it's selfishly, it kind of feels, you're supporting the community, but it almost feels selfish in a way, because it does help with employee satisfaction and morale, and there's so many benefits to all of that internally. So,
Pete, AJ, company culture. How do you define it, and how do you get it to reach down into your organization to just affect behavior every day?
Well, again, we're a family business. Still have a picture of my late father who passed away 5 years ago, in the entryway when you come in. A lot of old-time employees that have been there 30 and 40 years that still remember the way things were. We used to have beer on Fridays, and we had a Coke machine that had Jenny Lake beer bottles in it. Those things have changed. You can't do that anymore. But I think people do like working for a family business instead of a corporate environment, to where they're a name, not a number, if you will. But it's also important that the owners are around. You can't be gone all the time. You have to be actively involved. And some of my time is best spent not out solving problems, but just talking to people and asking how things are going in their lives, understanding that you know their kids and you know what grade they're in and you know what's going on at home. And I try to let people know that we're a good business. We make a difference. We're not just out there turning money or manipulating something or banking. No offense to bankers and wealth managers, but they don't produce anything. And we make a difference. We actually add to our GDP. We take something, we add value to it, and we sell it for more. And we provide something and make a difference in our country. And I think, I have that little discussion with people, and it feels good to make a difference. I like knowing that I am supporting 100 families, not just bodies. It matters. So we have to be able to provide for them. And in return, we have to be profitable. We have to make a certain percentage profit to justify being in business. So as long as we can stay ahead of that, stay ahead of the curve, charge appropriately for our services, continue to reinvest, we just need to make a reasonable margin to justify being in business, liking who we are, and making a difference.
So I would like to add up to what Pete said about, I think the culture in a family business allows people to have more of a sense of purpose, as opposed to a cog in a wheel, which is what you get at the large companies. I think that gives all my employees the great satisfaction, especially when you invest in new technology, as you had said before, that when you invest in a new technology and their ability matches the new technology, it gives them a much greater sense of purpose for the businesses. And it really creates a wonderful culture for our folks.
Thank you. Mazak's Matt Bain, who is, you don't have to stand up, handles our registration and our data and analytics, and he told Dan Yanka and I something yesterday that we really didn't know, and that is as much as, what is it, over 20% of the attendees here have never been to Mazak before and are first-time users. 25%. Yeah, so to me, who's been with this company for a long time, Dan, I don't know about you, but that's shocking.
No, it's fantastic. It
Yeah,
really
so
is.
there's a lot of first-time Mazak users. So Pete, I have to ask you, and I don't think Bill Miller or his late father Al would ever forgive me if I didn't ask this question. But for these first-time Mazak visitors here, what could you say as to why Mazak? Why should they look at Mazak?
That was directed at me, okay?
And
We're there,
Al
I'll
is
tell you
looking
what,
down at you right now.
We picked Mazak a very long time ago. My father did. And it was a great decision that we made. And what we have done that is probably different than most is that we were a very small job shop. We had, one CNC lathe, we had a mill, and we grew from there. And what we've done is we've standardized on one product. I know this sounds like a Mazak commercial, but I've said this before, that I believe that our total cost of ownership is lower. I mean, substantially lower than other shops. Take a look at Southwest Airlines, how they've standardized on a plane. They've got fewer parts, fewer things for their maintenance techs to learn. Same with us. We have parts in stock at our place. We teach our people how to work on Mazaks. They understand the control. We know exactly who to contact when we need help. We have a good reputation here at Mazak, and people are willing to help us. And they know you by name and face, because I come to these events. A lot of what I do here is meeting and shaking hands and talking to all the people that I've met over the years, and they service our account. They take care of us. So we really have a lower total cost of ownership, rather than getting a product, a production job, and going out to bid with 3 or 4 different manufacturers and having somebody give you the lowest price on a machine capable of making that part. We've never done that. We go back to Mazak, we go back to Miller, and say, what can you give us? Give us a solution. And it's not always just about the price, because it would cost me more to break the mold. I can't tell you how badly DMG and people wanted to come in and break the mold and put another machine in there and show me how it performs better. And maybe they would in that one instance, that maybe they've got a machine on that part that might be better in some way. But now I've mixed it, and it becomes a little more difficult to train your operator to go from one control to another. We've actually realized that we had very good machines that were making good parts that were older controls, back to the T2, the T3, we had the T1, a T32 and M32, and we got rid of most of those, because what you found was that you could replace it with something new, and now your operators that are new don't have to learn the old control, because they didn't. What you found is that your most senior people, your setup people, your most expensive people that have been there 20 years are working on your oldest equipment because nobody else knew it. So it became cheaper to upgrade than it was to try to cross-train over multiple generations of controls. And I like to keep it within 3 generations. You're always coming out with something new, but that is another strategy that when we ran out of space, before adding space, when you start limiting that, you start getting rid of the old and bringing in new. So we continue to reinvest every year, and I found that made financial sense, that your new people don't want to get stuck on the old machine either. So it's this delicate balance of people versus equipment. And that one brand worked for us. It may not for everybody, but since we're still a job shop with a mix of production and prototype, it works for us. And we're very, very happy that we made that decision a long time ago. I really don't entertain other brands. I have a robo drill, just bought another one, but they're a unique piece of equipment that works for a specific application. Other than that, I don't really shop around.
So, my best experience with Mazak, and we've been with them since 1987, was 2017. We had a machine that was out of warranty. It caught fire. We called Mazak. They had somebody there the next day, and they took care of it, and it was a no cost to Tomak. I told a couple people about it. It was unheard of, and they did a wonderful job. And I told everybody at Mazak that was wonderful from my perspective. That's why Mazak.
Courtney, other than how great Bill Keeby is, do you have any?
Oh, gosh, that's what I was gonna say. Bill is extremely responsive, and he's not paid me to say that. I love Bill, and he is very timely, very responsive, and always bringing in external support partners as well, so we can look at options, whether that's automation or tooling, bar feeding. So certainly enjoy the relationship with Machine Tech. I probably shouldn't admit this, but Zach's back there, and we looked at the control on our quick turn 25, and it had 50,000 hours.
Yeah, I think it's 58,000.
58. And what control was that?
I think it was
T2.
Wow.
So shouldn't that sell it? I mean, we are looking to upgrade, but and I do have a lot of new Mazaks, pallet tech solution. But when you can, I don't know what year that is, 1980 something, still
Probably
maybe
80, 85, maybe 85.
holding tolerance. I think that speaks for itself.
Wow.
Well, getting back to company culture, our chairman, who has since passed on, he was a very wise man, and I would say that for that control and that machine, that also falls under the 97% same-day part shipment for parts in that machine and controls. And I was always so impressed with him as a young person coming up, and he said once, our machines are like our children, and just because they leave home doesn't mean we don't take care of them anymore. So we always had a commitment for service and parts, especially of older machines. So thank you for that reminder. That's a lot of hours.
Yeah.
Well, right now I'm just kind of open it up a little bit. No specific questions. Usually at this time it turns into a dog's breakfast. We just kind of go in a whole bunch of different directions. But Leslie and I were looking through your websites, and all three of your websites are really fresh. They're relevant. They speak to what you've done, but also what you can do. They speak to an aggressive position in the market. And all three of you you seem to use marketing and social media to a certain extent very well. So I'll just open it up for all three of you who would ever like to add. Can each of you talk about other ways to grow your business and find new customers using web strategies or social media strategies?
I don't know. We started that really 2 years ago, where we started doing more social media posts. We would take pictures, we'd have a food truck come in every month, and we just try to make our place look fun. But when COVID hit, we stopped. I just didn't feel that it was prudent to be showing social events because we stopped having them. So what we started to be kind of a marketing plan to attract the younger generation, we stalled on that. We never really capitalized on what we wanted to portray. And now oddly enough, I'm getting old, and I'm kind of anti-social media. So I really don't want to address it until it becomes necessary again, but I really believe more in unplugging and not listening to all the crap that goes on out there, so I need a different strategy. I'm not sure what that's going to be.
Okay. HA, Courtney, any comments on web-based or social
You can
media-based
outsource it.
marketing strategies?
That's what we did. This is not my, branding, marketing, not my strong suit at all. So we've outsourced it to a company called Paperless Parts. They just started a division for marketing. So they're new and, but not my strong suit. But I think it's very fun when team members on the floor have expressed interest in posting on Instagram or videos, or I really encourage that. I think it's great, so.
So I can't speak to using social media to find customers, but social media or our webpage to find the workforce of tomorrow, that's what we're really after. So we're actually doing a video shoot tomorrow that's going to go on our web page so people can know what Tomak's like before they ever show up. And we think that's very relevant in the marketplace.
Very good, thank you. I guess before I turn it into just open Q&A to the audience here, one question for all three of you, which is kind of the catch-all. If job shops here today can walk away with one lesson from this panel, what's the most important piece of advice you can give to these people out here?
I think be different, be creative and be special in your area. Find what it is that makes you best in class, if you will, and try to capitalize on that and sell that to potential people that may want to work there. Just differentiate yourself. It might just be one little thing of how you have luncheons on Fridays or something that makes it a great place to work. I think one thing that people may have learned during COVID is that so many people worked from home, bankers and accountants and everybody, and they were really, many of them were desperate to get back to the office because they had no social interaction. At first it was great, I'm home, I don't have to go to work. But we offer an environment where people get to go to work and be around other people. You can't just be home, with your wife all day. The work is up. No, you need a chance to be able to interact with other adults that you're kids with. We all miss our kids if you have them, but you don't want to be home all day with them either. I think you need that diversity. So if you can find a way to be special and maybe bridge that gap of a combination of work at home and work in person, I think that's where we have to be, this hybrid that is going to work for people, to attract the right people, to be proud of who they work for, and happy with the job that they have.
So I would tag along with what Pete has said in that understanding what your core competencies are, and our core competencies are our people, because that's the only thing that makes us different than anybody else that's got a Mazak. So we celebrate that, and we are quite good at saying no to lots of customers when they come to us and say, hey, can you do this part? Because we know it's not our core competency. That's what makes our business different than any other business down the street.
So the question was lessons learned from the panel?
Just the walk away, what would, if there's one bit of advice you could give?
I definitely agree with both of what you said, and I would also just say from a tactical standpoint, make sure that you have, as an owner, make sure that you have a really good relationship with your banker and with your accountant. My journey into this industry was not typical. I joined my husband in 2008, and sadly he passed away in 2014 of brain cancer, and that's when I became president and owner. So before coming to join him, I had never been in a machine shop before. I had had internships in manufacturing, but it was all extremely new. And I just really had a lot of conviction early on that I felt like I was in the right spot. And I relied heavily in the past, and I still do currently, on key relationships with people in this industry. Whether that's your banker, your accountant, or maybe your fellow machine shop owner or fabrication owner. And just make sure you reach out, because I think being a small manufacturer, being a job shop can feel rather lonely. And I think every day brings new challenges. And it can feel overwhelming. I certainly think the last 18 to 20 months can take you down. So just reach out one day at a time, and we can get through this together.
All right. Well, we have 10 minutes left to go before lunch. So we'd like to turn it open to you. You're probably tired of my questions. I mean, you guys certainly are. So we'd like to open it up to any questions that any of you may have. And if I could I grab that mic and we'll just hand it around? Thank you.
Yeah.
So please, fire away.
Yeah, I do have a question. Thanks.
Yeah, and thank you, all three of you. That was fantastic. My question centers around the recent evolution of digital manufacturing solutions, machine monitoring. You know, looking for ways to increase your asset utilization and ways to optimize your existing processes and improve upon them and so forth. What I find, and I've visited many job shops, that it's maybe a bit more sometimes intimidating for a smaller shop to embark on the digital world versus a Lockheed or a Boeing or what have you. I'm curious as to what your experiences are, leveraging and taking advantage of this emerging technology and getting, looking to get more out of what you currently have at a time when you could really use it.
Okay, good.
We actually I brought a couple team members to the MT Connect, I believe it was called the workshop here.
Right.
Before COVID. And we went back and we had some calls with like dashboard, how you're going to present that data.
Right.
And ultimately, I decided to bring it down on the priority list because I felt like with all the other things that we were attacking, that I was going to do it, and then the data wasn't going to be actionable for us. So it's definitely in the plan. I think it's great to be able to have that data, but if you display it and it's there and you're not doing anything with it, what is the point? So I think for a small shop, we have to see return on investment with everything we buy. So we've got to have more of a plan before we go into that. But I think it's wonderful that the options are out there in the industry for us. That wasn't the case before. This software wasn't available.
So as a small shop, we do management by walkabout, and with the Mazaks, our downtime is very little. I mean, our machine utilization is probably at 30%, but that's because we're setting up so often. So from the perspective of adding the MT Connect, we have not pursued that path because we go around and see the down machine, and I don't need to be notified of that.
Okay, I'm a little different there. I've traditionally been a tech geek. So I attended the MT Connect boot camp here myself. I have a good understanding of it, and I knew that I wanted to get in on the ground floor. I mean, the adapters were version 1.2. They're way beyond that right now. So we have made it a point to bring that adapter online to all of our machines. They're all connected. I'm not utilizing them all yet. I did partner with another supplier that is giving us dashboards and reports and things like that. And I chose Memex. It was something that I saw here. And it's been adequate, but we haven't utilized it to the extent that we could. I did put a few, big screen TVs out there in certain cells running production. Because as you determined that when you're in setup a lot, you don't see a great utilization. The numbers don't look good. But in a new area where the machines have to run, you get to see where your downtimes are. And I already pretty much knew where they were, but I wanted everybody else to see. So we have done a few things that have worked for us. So we've changed kind of some of our production programs to where when like a tool life alarm goes off, you can see it. And we'll have the machine continue to run until an operator comes over and hits block skip or something, and then it's going to automatically do a tool change knowing that they're there. So there are a lot of things that we've tried to develop to make a production process really easy for a new person to be productive. There's a lot of data inputs that you could get with MT Connect. I know that there's a lot more that we could do, but we're really just scratching the surface. I know at one point you said that we wanted to ask, hey, what do you want from Mazak in the future? Well, it was something that I saw a couple years ago here that I don't believe is really being done, and I was hoping you guys would do it, and that is automatic coolant replenishment. I've seen it. Neil was working on some things out there, and they had a refractometer built into a smart box, and they were monitoring pH and temperature. There is a good solution for that, like a Palatech line with 7 machines. It's time consuming to go through and make sure that they don't run out of coolant, and adding coolant to it, and adding coolant in the right concentration. It'd be nice if that was an automatic replenishment system. I have a great idea. I'd love to work with somebody to come up with my ideas, but I'm not going to invent it. I don't have the time for that. But I want our people to focus more on making sure the product they're making is in spec and everything is in the control limits, not worried about cooling. Ultimately we could even have the chip evacuation system being central, but that is not as important as coolant replenishment. I think that that's not a hard project that would make things really great because you always have the right concentration. You never run out. You're never going to overfill. You're not going to be cleaning up a mess. And that happens, weekly.
Yeah.
That happens. And I don't have enough spare people to run around and take care of it. The operators are managing their own coolant supply. I don't have a person that's just taking care of coolant. So I guess that I evolved into that. Yes, we've adopted MT Connect. We are using technology. We use the demo dash a little bit. And really all I've done is let our people know that it's coming, that there are more things that we will do that will allow them immediate visibility. We are using some reports to where we are no longer counting the parts. We literally look at a report each day that says how many parts were made on these multiplexes, and they will Kanban in that number of parts to backflush the raw material and to fill the pipeline and keep your inventories accurate. The parts count works on that. You don't rely on an operator looking at his count and saying I made 82 pieces. We just use the report that comes out every day. And that does work.
Thank you.
Very good feedback. We have time for 1 or 2 more questions.
About customer questions.
That's a guy that doesn't need a microphone.
I would agree with that. He's from New York, so.
Been here half my life now, AJ. Haven't seen this life. Hey, quick question. It's been a very strange year. And I know with myself, one of the things I'm encountering now is, I think a lot of things have changed. One is pay scales. So my employees are getting savaged by my competition, offering them more money, et cetera. I'm kind of wondering what you guys are seeing, from an employer perspective in that. Are you looking at how's this affecting how you compensate your people? Are you making changes to stay abreast or maybe to get ahead of it?
So, I don't know if my opinion is going to be popular here, but I believe that part of our workforce crisis that has exploded since COVID, it certainly was an issue before, is because wages have been stagnant in our manufacturing industry in our country. And I don't believe you should get paid $18 to run a $500,000 machine and hold, a half a tenth's tolerance. So I think some of it is due. And I think that these craftswomen in our industry deserve this. And they deserve to be paid a very competitive wage, make a living, and take care of their families. So I think there is a reckoning going on, and I think there should be. And how it's gonna be felt through the supply chain is what we're gonna see. I don't know, you know, I'm being pretty bold saying this, but, you know, am I gonna be this bold in front of my customer? Oh, by the way, I'm gonna go up on my rates, and I'm gonna increase my quotes because I have to pay my people more because my benefits are more. I think it's gonna be, I think that's gonna play out, but I do think that our industry deserves this respect. And I think it's time. And I think it's a matter of looking at your cost components, your cost structure. And so if we're gonna raise wages, what are the other strategies to reduce costs so we can level things out a bit?
Our strategy is to buy more Mazaks.
All right, we have time for, I know we're up against lunch. We have time for one more question from the audience. Any questions? Well, I think that might be it. Could you please help me thanking Courtney and AJ and Pete? I think they did a wonderful job, and thank you very much. We really appreciate it.